You want both be? Hello, Mr. Termes.
Hello, Mr. Dillon. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I'm excited about our day here, whatever we're going to do. We don't know yet, but we'll make it up.
From my understanding, we are going to go on a walking tour of the Termesphere Gallery and the surrounding household and studio and all of that good stuff. So,
I think that sounds like it's a good plan.
yeah.
Let's start, since we're in here. Hi, I'm Bonnie.
Here's Bonnie, too.
Let's start with just a little bit of the tour in here. We'll just do it quick, and then we'll pop outside because it's a beautiful day.
Okay, all right. Well, the interior here, of course, quite a few years. I think we're coming up on 25 years of having this gallery. And in fact, I think this is maybe the 25th year of gallery time, and it's just done. We built it just to put the spheres in.
You said it's 25 years.
25 years.
25 years of... We got some great old photos we're going to share of building it. And we were all much younger then, standing around. And some of us are lucky enough to have grown up here. And just this place is a big, huge place in our hearts. So we're excited to kind of show the rest of the world. I think a lot of people don't understand how great of a just place this is, and you get to live here. Like, that's the coolest part. So we'll do one more little sweep around in here, and then we'll pop outside.
Okay. Yep. Now, inside here, there's spheres from little tiny ones like over here, and it goes. A lot of these are my studies or my sketchbooks, and then it goes a little larger and larger.
Most people have sketchbooks. Dick Termes has sketch balls.
Yes, that's right. So anyway, and some of these actually turned into a major piece, and some of the optical illusion guys have been turned into bigger ones. But it's nice in my case to know whether or not something is a good idea on a small scale before you get to the big scale, And then once they graduate, then they get to become bigger guys like this, and they get to hang in the gallery.
So I know this because we're about to do a big promotion thing. You've been painting on Termespheres for 50 years.
50 years this year, yes.
So can you tell me in here which is the oldest sphere that you've painted?
Well, I know a group that are older. This is an older one, I know, and most have sold if they are older. I was trying to think of what another older one is. In the house, I have a couple older ones. The purplish one way up high is a pretty old one too. I know that was inspired at the University of Wyoming. So
that's going to be one of our featured spheres coming up here soon. I just shot some video of that.
So, and then I do know you have one of the newest spheres in here right now. Do you want to show us that one that you just completed?
Oh, yeah. Here it is. It was over there, but.
And you were just finished. We did a live feed. We're going to do these live feeds once a month. So if you're digging
the first Tuesday of every month.
Yeah, you can check in. But we talked about this one a little bit last week, and you just finished it up. So now it's made its way.
The inside of it is all just cubes in the formation of a large cube, and then as you move to the outside, then life grows on the cubes. And there's holes in the cubes, so it's a different scene on the outside than the inside. That's the whole idea, is to make the world different on the inside of the sphere than the outside. And then but you have to have openings in order to get in here to look and see what the inside is. So that's what's fun about the transparent ones.
So the other thing that's really cool is we're going to end this video by showing you actually the sphere that he's working on right now. So you'll get a sneak peek in his studio where he paints and what he's working on right now. We gotta look at it earlier, and it is awesome, and I can't wait to show you. But first, let's go for a little walk.
All right, that sounds great. Can you join us, Mr. Dillon?
I'm coming along.
All right, we're gonna let Dylan go first. So no, we're gonna go down this way because he's got to walk backwards.
Oh
so.
Yes, that's right.
Go ahead.
Okay, yes. This is our little ramp for wheelchairs and whatever.
It also
And-
makes walking backwards easier.
And
Much
walk
easier for someone who has
backwards
to
is good that way.
be a camera guy.
Yeah.
So we can kind of stop here because I want to talk about what's on top of this dome here, because there's
Oh.
kind of a cool feature on the top of this
Yeah, we
one.
might have to get
Yeah,
out
we're gonna
here
have
to
to
see
get
it.
down
Okay.
a little.
Yep.
We'll get to where we can
It's
see it.
a lot of vegetation this time of the year.
Well, it's been raining, which is a good thing.
Right, right. So here we are. Now we can look up, because that was my youngest son, Cade, asked me one time what he was in a class, a welding class, and wanted to know what he could do in the welding class. And I said, well, I really need something for the top of the gallery to draw attention to the gallery. So I explained to him about an icosahedron, 20 equilateral triangles, and so we went right through it, so he really understood it. And then he went to the class, and the poor instructor was lost. But that's what we ended up. It's what's called a stellated icosahedron. It has points coming out. You see them at Christmas time a lot of times.
Right.
Hanging down in Mexico,
Yep.
you see them.
Yep.
But the challenge was to get it up there without taking the life of my son. So
Right, okay, and then, so it looks like there's a little room on top, and then it's on top of the,
a cupola up there is
Okay.
like an 11-foot dome in itself.
okay, so there's a dome on top of the dome.
Right.
And then cave sculptures on top,
on the top
of
of that. Marquis uses the little dome up there for exercises and meditations and
So
stuff.
you can actually go up there.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's
and-
awesome.
but you can't because she owns
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no, that's Marky can actually go up
Yes,
there. We
Marky
cannot
gets
go
to,
up there.
yes.
Well, let's show here. So when you come and you visit, you'll drive down this driveway. It's kind of out on a back gravel road, so it's you gotta find your way here, which is part of the treasure of it. But you come down here, you can see there's lots of places to park.
I see a trailer over there. What's that for?
Well, that'll turn into it's a hands-on for kids. It has all kinds of stuff inside that you take out, put it in a library, leave it for a month, and then kids come along. We'll have to do a special on that
Yeah,
sometime.
we will. We'll get it
We'll
out.
get it all out and
Yeah.
show you on one
Right.
of these next ones.
Most definitely.
But that's what's in there, a lot of stuff.
So this is what you see when you pull up. You see the gallery right here, and you just kind of walk up. They're open
9 to 5.
9 to
every day,
5
I
every
believe.
day.
Yep.
So 7 days a
During,
week
during the summer.
during the summer. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and right now, this is why we wanted to do this. I mean, it's fantastic here all the time, but it is so green and beautiful. So let's go back in here so you can see kind of the magic wonderland that is, beyond the gallery.
This little spruce tree was actually a gift to me on a birthday one time by my sons and
It
my
was
wife.
much smaller then.
Yeah.
It was smaller then. Now it's grown up.
How many years ago did you plant it?
Oh, I don't know. 25 at least.
25
I'll
years
bet.
ago.
Yeah, I'll bet so. Yes, yes.
Blink of an eye, right?
Yeah. Now we're walking underneath the gallery. Is projected out, but this building is kind of interesting because it's a square bottom to it with a dome on top of the square bottom. So it's a 24 by 24 foot square, and then the dome fits above the ceiling and creates the dome that projects out. So we get nice overhangs out of it. And
So we can come back here, and then you can kind of see this up view, which is really cool. You can see the cupola up there in that overhang. And so what's in this lower part here? Because we were just upstairs.
my sons have their rooms in underneath the gallery.
Okay.
So there's
So there's 2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms back
Okay.
in there. Yep.
Excellent.
And then it's attached to our house that was the original dome house. That
So
was-
a couple weeks ago, I think we posted a picture of just one dome. So that was just this dome here.
years and years
Yep,
ago, yeah.
1972. 72 is when that was built. And then the gallery dome is the newest dome, right?
Yes, yes it is.
And then how many domes are there total?
There's 5 if you count the greenhouse.
5 if you count the greenhouse. Are we
Yeah.
going to get to
Are we
see
going to see the
Yes.
greenhouse?
We're going to see the greenhouse.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
So let's
So, yeah.
go. Let's see. This is what I love because it's all under this canopy of. Are there oak trees?
Yes, most of them are oak. This is box elder here, but All the ones out toward the road are oak trees.
So you're kind of down in this beautiful little valley.
And a lot of spruce. I'm really working on a row of spruce to separate us from the road. So someday that'll be, really cool.
Right.
Just totally packed with spruce trees.
Well, and this is one of my favorite little spots too, because you've got this great bird feeder, and I love coming out here, and you can just sit and watch the chickadees or whatever, feeding off of here. And is that squirrel prevention? Is that why it hangs like that?
It's out and high enough. I think the squirrel the squirrels really did come in, but the birds like to land on these horns. So they'll land here, and then they'll take their turns to get to, because some of the blue jays dominate and don't let anybody else come around.
Someone is very excited. Alyssa Cleland is very excited to see the greenhouse. But I'm over here, and I'm noticing something a little odd. There's this little Dick. Are you making tiny domes?
This was an old Union 76 gasoline sign. When I first started doing spheres out at Otis Art Institute in Los Angeles, I wanted a really big sphere for my master's thesis. And so I started connecting with, they're out of California to start with, and by the time I had graduated, they brought me the first big globe. And it was like, the original was like 7.5 foot in diameter. And but it was kind of an old beat up globe, and I really didn't want to spend a whole lot of energy on it because it wasn't a brand new one. It was like a used one.
Right.
But we turned it into a doghouse.
Well, it was also our fort when we were little kids.
Yeah.
I remember,
Sure.
I think we had a couple of campouts in there.
Yeah, probably a little scary. Yes, there it is. You can see the inside of it. But when it actually arrived, it was halfway split in half already. So that's why I pulled. One of them was sitting out here, and one of the storms, the tree fell over on it and smashed it all to pieces. Okay, forward ever?
Yeah, let's go. This little spot over here is great. We got a little fire pit here.
Yeah. That's a good place for parties. We have good parties here.
Best parties.
We've got a little fish pond over here I'm quite proud of. That has quite a few little goldfish swimming around in there. Double story, so it kind of gets pumped, it circulates the water. But it's quite rustic looking, and the moss is really growing nicely on it now and everything.
It's been a work in progress.
Yeah.
For
This one,
quite some time.
for it came when I was pouring the cement for the gallery,
Oh, really?
for the bottom of the gallery. So this was left over, and we just dug a big hole and just
That's using up your resources.
Yep, threw it in there, and I just did it by hand.
Yep.
I was in there with my feet full of concrete and just pushed it into that kind of formation.
This fish right here is a brand new arrival.
Yeah, they just came today.
Just showed up today, so.
Looks like he's loving his home.
It'll take him a while to get used to it, I'm sure.
I'm certain.
All right, and then there's another dome over here. What's this little guy here?
That's an orno. That was, I built that for Marky, my wife, and she always liked the ornos down the southwest. Well, the ornos down there are made out of like dirt and sod. And up here in the north country that we live in, I started with a beehive of fire brick, and then used the limestone to build it into more of the dome. But we can cook turkeys in there, and we used to cook a lot of breads and stuff too. It still will work. It works fine. It just takes a little bit of firing it up and then getting rid of the ashes and then putting the bread stuff in there and the turkeys or whatever.
So you basically create the heat first, so that makes the whole thing hot, and then you pull the coals out, and then it cooks residually with what's left in there. For the heat.
And this is your grandfather's little lid here. that we use on the front of it.
And that's actually a real artifact, right?
I think it is. I think it is. I probably shouldn't be using it for this, but it works perfect. It probably was
right.
for this to
Yep,
start with,
yep,
you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so I think here we can kind of take this is a nice spot to kind of see the other, you can see kind of the whole, I'm going to use the word compound.
This first dome that is the studio, Marky's studio for puppetry is in the bottom, and I do my spherical painting up on the top. And then the next dome over is our TV dome. That came from, if anybody remembers Tom Monahan in Sturgis, he was a student of mine. He built that dome and it hung around Sturgis for a long time. And finally I asked him if he was ever going to finish it. And he said, no, my wife didn't really like it. So, so he sold it to me for $100. And I reassembled it and built it and added it on to the original dome, which is the bigger 30-foot one that you see there. But that's where our kitchen is, and our bedroom, living room is all in the big dome, which is now attached to what you saw underneath the gallery too. So
We have a hello from Ruth and hello from
Lynette Shad Kelly.
yes. So they say hello to you.
all right, very
Hello
good,
back.
very good.
So then here you can also see the gallery over there to the far right.
I
So-
love the bush too. You might look at the bush because that's maple. No, not maple. It's a vine growing up over the top of that poor bush, and this time of the year it just takes over, and the vines just totally take over. But pretty soon they'll be running little rings all the way around. They're coming off all of these
So
lines.
that's what kind of these cords are, is to run the grapevine
Yep.
up and around.
They'll
So this,
grab.
it
Just
creates
like
kind of a
they did on that
yep.
one over there
Yep.
already. So.
creates a canopy over here.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
a little
Kind of a
umbrella.
natural canopy.
Yep. So let's go back this way. The other thing I love about your space is you've always had these swings everywhere, which you have to do because you have such great trees. So this one's funny over here. You got the tire swing.
Yeah, we had, I'll bet, a good dozen swings hanging from the trees in here when the boys were little and when you guys were little. This used to be, we had that one that was the airplane, big heavy-duty airplane that I built. And I think I crippled a couple of kids on it because they'd get to swinging it, and then one kid would turn his back and get bashed in by it.
Ruth Loudon says, we came to visit your gallery in September 2015. We were ecstatic to meet you.
Oh, very good.
And then Jane Sale says, I wish I were there right now. Hello from the prairie, Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
All right. Well, hello.
Ah.
So tell us about this piece here.
Well, this is one that actually was shipped to me by Union 76 Company
Okay.
the day before I left to come home, and I had to hire a truck to haul it back. It wasn't what I had in mind. But anyway, I worked on it through the summer, and in a kind of an old shed that I found, and painted it all on the inside. And later it was broken up by some vandals in the park.
It was in the park down in
Brady
Spearfish
Park.
Brady Park.
So now it's just kind of stuck together.
But you patched it back together.
Kind of barely, yeah.
So what year did you paint this one?
Well, it had to be about 71 or something like that.
So it was before you had this dome here.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Mhm.
Wow, okay.
We maybe had the first little dome, because that's 72,
Yep,
so it
yep.
might have been about that time.
So
too.
I remember being a kid and it would light up.
It would
Didn't
light
it
and
spin,
turn,
too?
Yeah.
Yep. And that's since
Since it got broken all to pieces,
Yep.
then it doesn't do any of
Yep.
that anymore.
Yep.
I just sort of put it together as a memory of it,
Yep.
and it just sits out here.
I'm going to go take a lap on this real quick.
Take a lap around.
all right.
Since it won't spin for me, I got to spin for it.
The tree might get in your way over there. It's coming in.
Tree. Just while I'm doing this, we did get another note here that says, hey, from Navarra, Florida, from William Kiernan, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of that.
One more question I had about this one that has escaped me. Dang it. It'll come back, or it
Well,
won't.
the subject matter for it is an insideness and outsideness. This side was an inside of a room, and then it just transforms. All of a sudden, you're outside looking at an environment from the outside.
Oh, right, I see that.
And
That's great.
here I am educating kids about spheres. I think that's what that is, actually.
Self-portrait.
Yeah. And a lot of it was, I remember I used like a scratching technique on the inside. I painted, and then if I wanted to bring some lights back, I'd use an X-Acto knife and just kind of scratch it.
Oh,
back.
neat. Yeah, so this, you painted this actually from
From
inside
inside the ball, yeah. Uh-huh.
So size-wise, because this is much bigger than the ones we saw in there.
Yeah, this is 6 foot.
6 foot, and the biggest one you did is 8 feet, correct?
7.5 feet.
7.5 feet. So the biggest one is 1.5 feet bigger than this.
Yeah.
Great.
And then a couple 5.5 foot ones that I've done.
It's a large piece.
Yeah,
Hey,
so-
Bon, can I get you to?
Stand here so you can
Scoot
see
in.
the size.
Yeah.
I'm 5'6".
So there's a size comparison for you.
Would you do a really big one again, or is big kind of too much of a pain?
It's kind of a pain.
Yeah, I could have it. If you do one that big, do you have to paint it on the inside?
No, only if it's out in the weather.
Okay.
If most of them I've done are inside pieces, so they actually are painted
can
on,
paint
the
on the outside.
It's a lot easier to paint on the outside than
I
inside.
imagine it's not fun to get in there. And
It probably is what turned on those transparent ones that we were looking
Right.
at in the gallery.
I could see that.
Because but in those cases, you actually get to see the inside. Where I'm the only one that got to see the inside of this.
But you still had to kind of paint it backwards, right?
Yes.
Because you had to put on your paint the opposite
Yep.
way of.
Whatever shows up on the outside, you paint first
Yep,
on the
yep,
inside,
yep.
and then you build it backwards.
Wow, that's
So the
amazing.
last thing you do is frost it with white. If you have lights in there,
Yep.
like a light bulb, it's
Yep.
frosted on the inside, so it diffuses
Yep.
the light out. That's the same kind of thinking has to be done when you work on this.
Interesting.
Want to see the greenhouse?
I want to see the greenhouse.
Yeah, we're right next to a greenhouse.
This is the newest dome, we'll have to say. It went up last summer.
Yeah, Lang, my oldest son and I put this together. And make sure you keep up.
I'm doing my best.
All right. But it's all, it's an icosahedron, 20 equilateral triangles. If you look at the big triangle right there, there would be 20 of those, except you leave 5 off the bottom. And when we get inside, I'll show you the metal hubs. But we broke it with an extra triangle in the middle, so there's actually 4 triangles out of the 1 triangle.
An additional support.
If it were hanging, like if it wasn't on the ground, would it have a point on the bottom too?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. There'd be another 5 triangles
That go
going
down
into
in
the
the middle.
bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is kind of, would you like to join us inside? I've got a little fan in here blowing, so it might be a little noisy. But
I might just unplug it just for this so we
yeah, let's do that.
it'll get nice and warm.
Because it
for
does
us.
get very toasty in here. But
it's roasty toasty in here.
That's
It is
Got a
it
few-
is an adequate greenhouse.
few cucumbers come in there, and some lettuce and peas, and got I think that might be spinach over there. I'm a little confused as to what some of the stuff is. And I got way too many tomatoes going.
I think
I
we
gotta
all do.
Pull a few of those
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
And then these are the ones that your guys' mother gave me. Claire is these
They
bigger
look
ones.
like they're doing great. They
And
like it in here.
got a few too many of things growing in the pots. The pots these didn't work so well last year, so I'm not quite as quick about. It's fun to look at,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but they just didn't.
Well, they need more water because they're not getting it.
They
from the
do.
ground.
They really get aired out. So
But we did for lunch. I'll have to everybody know we came out here and picked some lettuce and some kale
Yes.
for our sandwiches this morning. This
and then
afternoon.
point right up above
Makes
your
good sandwiches.
Yeah.
Dylan. Right up above is a solar.
Give me one moment. I gotta get there.
Okay.
There we
There it
are.
is. That's all those little solar guys that I stuck inside of a mirrored ball, and that lights up at night after all the light is shining in here. So this has a nice glow in the evening
Oh,
just
cool.
from the solar stuff.
That's awesome.
But
So
it's-
you and Lang built this,
Mhm.
and then you were going to show us the metal brackets in here.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
Those are kind of unique.
Yeah, can you see one?
I've got one
That
right there.
Okay, because that shows that's what you buy to start with, and they're like $75, so it's really a good deal. And then you can actually add any length of 2x4 or 2x6 on it, and the more longer the length is, these are about 8 foot across. If they were 16s, it'd be twice as big, or maybe even bigger. I don't know what the
That's
math
for
is.
when you need to make room for all these. So you're not going to pull these tomatoes. You're
Yeah,
going to grow
that's
that
right,
many.
that's right. Yep. So.
Turn the fan back on.
Yeah, and we'll go out of here where it's very hot.
Yeah, it's doing its job, that's for sure. So let's stand next to it, kind of see how big of the space it is. The cracks in the plexi, was that because it was hard to cut those shapes, or?
Well, and if you put an extra triangle in there, you don't have to have such large
Right.
pieces of plastic.
Right.
And if you just stretched plastic, it would help hold it down too.
Yep.
Because you don't want that great big span across there. It would really be
Yep.
hard to
flap
fill.
and- yep.
So, and I had this left over from the windows. We put new windows in,
Oh,
so I
so-
just
yep.
used the old stuff.
See, that's
gave-
what I love about this place is it's this project becomes this project becomes this project.
Yeah.
I'd like to just kind of show, like, we're in this valley that's really, really amazing. I think that's kind of why you get so green down here, is you got
Yeah.
such a nice wash. But just kind of Dylan can show. This
As
is
well
the-
as I can
yeah,
from a
yeah.
camera.
These trees you're looking at, all the pines, I planted as little tiny sprigs or whatever you
Yeah.
call them. I got them from the Forest Service, 100 of them. Came out here in a rainstorm, pounded holes in the ground, planted them. Every one of them grew.
That's awesome.
So I mean, this whole thing, there's probably more like 130 pines there out of the 100.
So you planted these trees up here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not just a talented artist, but quite a green thumb as well.
Uh-huh.
Okay, then I kind of want to go back this way.
Okay.
One thing
Right over here.
Yeah, last summer, Dick installed a piece on Main Street in Spearsfish, which if you haven't seen, you should go check it out. But I got to kind of experience the process. We're going to go up in the studio next. But what happens is it's up on the second floor, so if the piece is pretty big, you can't get it out of it's a normal size door. So over here, if you look, there's a garage door right here, and the floor actually opens up, and you lower the sphere from the top level down through the floor, and then it's got to come out this way. And I got to help with that last summer, and totally blew my mind. I mean, I think that's another thing that's so amazing about you is that, I mean, your head works so different, obviously, to be able to paint the way you do, but you've kind of solved all your problems before they
Well, yeah, you don't. It's the old. Don't build the boat in the basement and then try and
yeah,
get it out.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, exactly.
It's same way here. You can, you know. In fact, if you while we're walking, I'll explain. I had that 7.5 foot sphere to put in here, and it actually wouldn't fit through the garage door. It was too big. So see the notch out of the top of the door?
Oh yeah.
That had to be cut out. We had to take a chainsaw. So I wasn't quite so brilliant, I'd say, on that deal.
Well, you thought to a certain extent, but
Yeah, and now it's just a little bit beat up because that was 1985, I
Right,
think,
right.
when we did that. But my brother was helping, and I said, "Oh my God, it's not going to go in there." He said, "Well, let me go get my chainsaw." He just sawed out a chunk out of the top, and it slipped in there because
Just
the
got right in.
ball does not change its
no,
shape.
no, you can't really squish them, I
No,
suppose.
you can't.
Not if you want them to still be spheres.
Yep, yep.
That's right. All right, so.
So you heat your house on with a wood, you know, so that's what all this is?
Well, you know, it's a supplement now. It used to be that's what we heated with. Now
Yeah.
we use natural
That
gas.
you got a furnace.
Yeah, but this is perfect. This overhang with the square bottom and the dome top gives you nice overhangs for wood and storing stuff, keeping it dry, and even the bird nest I think is
I love that bird
that's a
nest.
robin actually is using that. It's kind of an evil little spot for a house.
Well, I love it's a juxtaposition between life and death, I think.
Yes,
you know?
it is. Yes, it is.
It's a beautiful
It's been
statement.
there for a long time, and they use it every year.
Well, I
Keeps
think
coming
it's,
back.
you know, a life goes on sort of
Yeah.
thing. I mean, they figured it out. They
Yeah,
don't care.
they did. All right.
I'm going to let Dylan follow you through here. This is one of my favorite little spots up in here.
I'm gonna kind of hang back just a
Okay.
little bit so I can get like full effect.
But we'll stop here real quick too so you can see. So here's the original dome again.
Yep.
And then here's the addition. This was the little boys' room too when I was growing up. That's where the
that
kids.
started off as their bedroom.
Yep. And then there's a connector piece right here that's a little hallway that goes from one to the other.
Right. Right.
And a chimney.
And a chimney.
All right, I'll let you go ahead and follow.
All right. I'm behind you.
Okay. I wanted to make sure before we had children, I thought, well, I need to make sure my working space is not attached to the house. And it really didn't make any difference. My kids were very respectful of letting me do my work during the day, you know. So, but that's why it's separated, because this could just well be attached. It would be today if I had a choice.
Now we get to see where the magic happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's take a little pan this way just to show the yard from up here. So there's the greenhouse where we just were. And now we're up on the deck here.
Do a lot of the painting and sanding of the balls out here in
You're
the
right
summer.
on that little guy right
On the
there.
this little guy and whatever else, all kinds of different ways we do it.
Do you
Little
have a
outside
time of day
workbench.
you like to paint, or do you just paint mostly?
You know, I've gotten in a habit the last few years going getting coffee till about 10 o'clock.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then working I usually work till 6. So I still get my almost 8 hours
Yep,
in a day.
yep. And you just sit out here and paint?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So it's a perfect life.
It
I'll
sure
tell you.
is.
Yeah.
In a perfect place.
Yes, yes.
All right, I imagine the camera's going to have to get adjusted.
We're okay.
All right, good.
Darkness here. Just as a tour in here, this is it's a total disaster, but it always is, so no sense pretending, right? This is where the office part is, where you do computer things and any kind of Facebooks and stuff like this that these guys here make me do most of the time. And then like putting together the reproduced spheres over in that area. And then this area back behind here was where I did a lot of my drawing. It hasn't been used much lately. You kind of go through different phases of things that you do, and so a lot of it is storage and cutting photographs. You can see the glass top there that I use to cut lots of photos and stuff like that. And a lot of the workshops I do, there's lots of extra balls like down here and here and up above. You can see that I have a lot of, you need a lot of things like that for workshops. And then this is where well, this little board here I use for public broadcasting, the drawing class that we have on public broadcasting. I did all the drawing on that whiteboard, which is kind of neat. And then this is where I get to sit and work over here. And I've got kind of a fantasy piece happening right now. I'll just get it like about in here and you can kind of get an idea of what it is it's going to turn into. So all the creatures and the humans are sort of strange and made up as they go. And this will be, I think, a pretty bright colored piece when I get it finished too. But I'm trying to have all the creatures totally fantasy creatures that I make up, so they're not even following the rules of what fantasy dragons are supposed to look like. They just are their own thing. And even the plants are coming off of kind of some strange types of ideas. This plant down here is even going into a weaving system. So it's actually a perfect weave through the middle of it. And then I got into, later I actually started playing with the spirals, that everything was working on the spirals. And that, I think, is really exactly what it needed for more fantasy. So now these guys will get constructed out of the spirals that are running through this. And you can see the different creatures. A lot of these I mix. What I do when I create creatures is I look at 2 or 3 different kinds of animals and mix them together, and then I play more even after that.
So there you kind of have a horse and a goat maybe and a dragon.
Who knows? Yeah. It's got kind of a dragon tail, and then like the dragons here are like fighting.
It'd be fun to have some kids come up with the names of those animals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is the.
Well, you know, we're coming up with that mural book. You're actually designing it for me at this point, and when I was at North Junior High in Rapid, the kids came up with all of these really creative creatures. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit like what I'm doing here, but it didn't last very long.
Right.
I guess the administration didn't think it was the coolest thing in the hallway, but I thought it was really neat.
So just to touch on that real quick, Dick spent several years going around the state of South Dakota painting murals in various high schools and different projects, and did a great job of documenting them. But we're putting it together in this book that'll be coming out soon. Work in progress, but we're really excited to get that out. So it'll have some of the history of all those murals that he did. How many is it? It's 20?
24, I think.
Yeah, 24
but that's
murals.
Counting three-dimensional murals, too.
Right.
Like polyhedron murals.
Yeah. And, you know, sadly, you know, not a lot of them are left. You know, there's a couple. The one in Vermilion's really, really great, and they've done such a great job of respecting it. But, you know, a lot of them, I know there was one at Stevens High School where I went to school that I had no idea because it had been painted over. So it'd be interesting to see if this would spark any sort of restoration projects or any of that sort of stuff. But there's some neat stories that are coming along, too. They're finding them in places, and, you know, some walls were put up in front of them or whatever. So hopefully this will get a little bit of a buzz on getting some of those.
Well, in the book, if nothing else, the book has the images. So
Right.
That's what I'm very pleased. It's sort of like a comeback.
Yep.
They cover them over, and yet you can come back with them
Exactly.
again and again.
Well, and the funny thing is like some of the one at Stevens anyway was like 4 feet, but it went all the way around the courtroom. So there's no way in a book to show that in one long piece. So we've cut it up, you know, but it fills a whole page, and it's 4 sections of it. But it's so neat because you can kind of, you know, get a glimpse of what it looked like.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just before we move on about this piece, we have a comment from Paula Walker that says, "Love it, incredible piece, as per your usual."
Look at this this bird here. He was showing me this earlier. The way that it becomes the spirals and you know, but just the form on it is so fantastic. The way it's landing in there with, you know, this one's telling that guy to be quiet. She's quiet.
Melanie Jube Crouch says, "Fascinating, awesome. Thank you for sharing your talent." That comment came in while we were talking about the book.
Okay.
So that is quite possibly somebody who is interested in the book. Yep. And then Tom Harmon wants to know, did you vote?
Probably not for the same person you did, Don.
But all due respect. With all due. Yeah, let's show this. This is so cool to me. If we're doing the tour, you know, because this just kind of shows. So you got all the paintbrushes, which of course is awesome. But then here, I mean, how many years of paint do you think that is?
There's a lot of painting stacked in there.
Yeah. So do you that's where you kind of wipe your brush off and move on to something else?
Well, I scrape it, and it just ends up, you can't scrape the edge.
Yep.
Pretty soon it just gets built up more and more.
Globby.
And more.
And it's, you know, it's down here too. And, you know, this is such a testament to how long
this has been going on.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is just...
I don't clean house very
well. No, this is your own space. So you
see the tubes hanging here.
Yep.
And then this is where I keep the paint.
So
inside
do you
here.
have a favorite kind of paint? I mean, you use acrylic, right?
Yes, right.
Yep. And then do you have a? I mean, I'm not
Special
asking-
brand.
Yeah, maybe they'll send you free paint if
Yeah,
you.
no, like Liquitex is what I've used a lot
Yeah.
of, but I have to admit there's a lot of variety
Right,
of
right.
stuff I grab just to get colors,
Yeah.
certain colors.
So you
and stuff.
kind of pick your paint based on what the color.
What I
is.
need for colors,
Yeah.
yeah.
So just because I and probably everybody else watching this stream couldn't help but notice, is this one of your amalgamated creatures here?
That's one right there.
Can I flip through that?
Yeah.
Can I show it
Yeah,
off a little
sure.
bit? So this is kind of sketches. Yep, I saw that in there.
Yeah, that's the mountain. One of the mountain guys.
Yep.
That's that's in there too.
Yep, I love that. There's a guy kind of cracking out of one of those
Yeah.
little. That's
Yeah.
the people pods there.
Uh-huh.
So you'll kind of work something out on paper and then you move it on.
I
to
did
the-
on this
yeah.
one. I have to admit I do it differently every time.
Right. I love those ones. That's so
So
great.
yeah, I am noticing, like especially with this particular piece right here, it is very similar to a flat piece.
That
Yours
flat one I just sold?
Just sold, yeah.
Yes, it is. It is.
That's
great.
the one that's telling him to be quiet.
biting his leg there.
And then my dogs say that. The old one says that to my puppy a lot. Just just settle down.
Uh-huh.
All
That'd
right.
make a nice T-shirt.
Yeah,
though.
all of these are just so. There's that bird again. They're so fun and lovely, and it just kind of. I think that's the other thing too, is your artistry is so unique. You have such a style, and you kind of. I'm not comparing, but you look at a Dr. Seuss thing, and you're like, that's Dr. And you have kind of a way that you can tell those are how your creatures are. It's a Dick Termes way to build a creature.
Probably so.
Yep,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Do we have any questions from the people watching?
At current, everybody's keeping pretty quiet.
Okay, well, we can make a little bit. We'll walk back to the front, and if anybody has any last minute questions they
Yeah,
want to
so
ask.
if anybody has any questions, now is your time. Get them out.
When was
Oh.
this dome built?
this was in I think '85.
Okay, and
I
this
think-
so this was so it went the 72, and then the kid dome, the TV dome.
That was the next one. Right?
Yep, and that was when you built that when Lang was born, right? So
Right. Yeah.
78, 79.
And then this one came
Yep,
next,
next,
and then the gallery.
and then the
was
gallery.
last. So we swoop around.
Yeah,
this
let's
way?
go around back, and then we can finish with that view of the gallery that way.
Okay.
Because this is kind of a fun way to see them too, and I don't think a lot of people ever get up here.
This is where I usually walk over to the gallery. This little path right here.
So again, here's the little one.
Hold on just a moment. Joe Nelson says, "Hey, old neighbor, it's nice to wander your place again. Come visit us in California."
All right.
That's great. So here you can kind of pan over Dylan, you can see him again. So you got the TV room here and the main living space, and then you've got the big dome here. Looks like you got a visitor.
Yeah.
So we can wrap it up, and thanks for everybody taking the tour with us,
Yeah. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
and have a great Tuesday.